And welcome back. Another figuring it out session. I've made it back this time, although a little bit less of me is here since I had a tooth pulled. So maybe I won't talk as much today, guys. I'll introduce the topic and then shut up so that I can heal appropriately. But today we're going to be talking a little bit about mouse movers. Matt Wilson, also Erkin, and I'm not going to say your last name because I'm just going to slaughter it. But really wanted to talk about one of the things that we noticed and kind of figured out as we've all gone to working virtually or working remotely. So I don't know if you guys want to kick it off from there.
Yeah, I mean, this came out of a conversation Erkin and I had. And by the way, I'd say we missed you, but I mean, I don't want to lie. That would be, we did. So, Erkin and I had one of our many random conversations over text chat one day, and he just said, "Hey, have you seen this mouse mover thing? It could be like a cool topic to cover." And I had heard the term, but whatever didn't click right in my brain at the time. And so I know, Erkin, you had, seen something, stumbled across something, someone had communicated to you about mouse movers, and it prompted some thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. And at that point in time, I realized, wow, the average person is probably, prone to this type of thing, especially with the large influx of people working from home, and many of those being first-time work from homers. So,
right.
Yeah, I think it's definitely an emerging thing right now.
So let's define a mouse mover, because they come in a couple of forms, right? Now, popular right now, because people are working from home, they're finding ways to shake their fist at the man, as it were, their company, whoever, and they're reading all kinds of things about how they're being surveilled by their employer and all this stuff. So a mouse mover is exactly what it sounds like. It's something, hardware or their software variants, that will simply move your mouse around for you. It'll make it look like you're doing actual work. We're not here to debate the ethics or morality of such a thing. I think we all know what side that should be on. If you're going to be working, be working. But Ron, you'd mentioned years ago, and I won't make you talk too much, but there's some legitimate use cases that you'll see by people that just want to keep their system awake. They don't want the auto lock. Their company has draconian 2-minute lockouts, and it's really hard to use your fingerprint to open your MacBook Pro these days, apparently.
Yeah, the history on mine is, now I've told this story 4 or 5 times, but years ago, it was before, I guess it was 97 or 98, something like that. There was this movement, or not movement, but there were companies set up that were paying people to surf the web. And really the only thing that you needed to do at the time was to load up their toolbar, which I'm sure everybody would just cringe at nowadays, but it was load up their toolbar and stay active on internet surfing. And obviously it was a way for them to collect data, but they had no controls in there. So all they looked for was that you were connected to the internet, you were on a web page, and that was it. So we solved the problem by having a mouse mover program that literally just went like this, right? And kind of kept your screen active. And then as time went on, new things were required. You either changed a page or scrolled or were somewhat interactive or whatever it was. So we kept changing it to make sure that it matched whatever the requirements were, but it was still the same thing. Now, was it unethical? Well, it didn't technically, maybe, right? I made some money off of it. Let's be real here, but it's also why
seed money for BTB.
Right. Actually, it was more beer money. I was still in college, so but it was one of those things that it was the way to get around it. And I probably made like $100 a month just by surfing the web. And some of that was legitimate, and some of it was just because of the mouse mover program. Now, when it came up, I was like, oh my God, that's genius. I was like, I wonder if I still have the C++ files to put anything together. But that's my history lesson on that one, and we all kind of chuckled about it.
Yeah, and I think people are going to use them, whether they have their own ethics. But like I said, there's the hardware kind, and they look like they get a couple forms even then of like, it's like a little dock for your mouse. It'll kind of shake it. They have like a power plug, and you read some of the reviews, and these things are on Amazon. Again, there's open source software, or at least freely available software. But Erkin, one of the things you and I were talking about is like, you know, people are going to buy them and just plug them right on into their work laptop, and then good things will happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we know enough about malicious software that who knows what that thing is actually doing. So from the user's perspective, it's, oh, look, I bought this awesome mouse mover. I'm going to recommend it to my friends and family. It's working great. But the reality is you don't know what it's doing behind the scenes. And you really just have to evaluate the risk of, is moving my mouse for whatever reason you have worth potentially, breaching my personal information, and even worse, my company. So yeah, scary world.
Yeah, and it's not like, look, these are largely, I don't think we've like bought 1,000 of them and sample tested, but I think everyone would probably agree that these are made in some foreign land where folks might not have the best of intentions for whomever it is, right? Like their morals and ethics are such that if you're not smart enough, or if you're dumb enough to plug this thing in, you kind of get what you have coming to you. So
Yeah.
Those mouse movers, I think what we're trying to say is are risky. So if you're going to do it, I know Amazon has it, but I'm not saying you should go to Amazon and buy these things, because it's not like anyone's doing some quality control on does this have malware. And we even looked around a little bit. I know Erkin, you and I had done a bit of homework, and we couldn't find any like great examples of that. But I think it's that the way you put it is, let's frame the risk here. Is it worth the mouse jiggling? Or could you, if you were going to, have to have your mouse move, what are some of the ways you could do that where you didn't have to plug something?
Yeah.
Tips and tricks for avoiding work. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, Ron is one of the people that can fire me at BTB. So, and I do have a fan right over there, but there is no fishing line hooked up to it. So
Is that a mouse mover in the background?
you guys can't see my mouse moving around. It's just like
you just see Matt's daughter. One of his.
I was gonna say, I have children, so I can. They're now out of school,
you have two human mouse movers.
Like a toy, and that'll get me like 2 months of mouse moving. So, but I know, Erkin, for those without children that want toys, maybe I know you dug up some DIY considerations.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of DIY options. Unfortunately, I think most of the options actually work with an optical mouse as opposed to a fancier laser mouse. So maybe that's a recommendation, is if you have an old mouse laying around, grab that. I know you can get just a regular glass cup, and you can put your mouse on that glass cup, and it tricks the sensor. I know some people use like a watch face, and I think the most creative one I've heard of was actually the oscillating fan and fishing line. It's pretty handy. Very impressed by that one. So shout out to whoever came up with that idea.
Does it actually trick your fancy MX Master?
Oh, nothing tricks this.
I think we all have the same mouse too, which is also disturbing.
Yeah.
It's not like BTB standard issues. We each spent like $100-some on a stupid mouse sometime in the last 2 years.
Very nice. It's cool though, because it is just kind of funny. Like it's on topic because of the mouse mover stuff, but at the same time, like look at all the stupid stuff on like ThinkGeek or some of those sites where it's like, oh, it's a cool office tool. You just plug it into your computer because it's USB powered, and it like keeps your coffee warm, or it's a little fan or whatever. And people are like, oh, that's so neat. It's such a cool gadget. Like plug, and like plugs it right in, and that's it.
Plug and play. It's fun.
It works perfectly, and it's so much fun. They're little gadgets, but it's the same sort of concept. Nobody really ever validates what's in there, and it's why so many people are still very hesitant about allowing anything like that. But I don't think it's a problem that has really ever been solved. You can lock that stuff down, but realistically, we all know that that's very difficult to do.
Yeah, I mean, you can buy solutions. You can push it if you're a Microsoft, Active Directory doing it, whatever. You can push GPOs, and you can disable things. I mean, I've had customers that have literally epoxied new laptops, taken some epoxy and shoved it into ports. And I'm not like critiquing that. That was where their kind of risk assessment led them to. But people are going to plug things in. So you got to educate through awareness. You have to enforce through physical controls, or at least technical controls in some capacity, if you really care about it. Else, you should always be doing monitoring, right? You should be able to detect if something gets in and hoses one user. I'm not saying that's great, but at least it doesn't bring down your environment. So.
Yeah.
Man, I think an at-risk industry right now is the financial industry, because many of them require all of their users to be, or their employees to be in person strictly. And we obviously know why that's great, but because of COVID, having to go home and have a lot of these financial institution employees work from home for the first time, I think that's a little scary.
Yeah, I was on,
you know.
Yeah, I was on the phone with an investment firm just yesterday, and that was like no joke. And that was one of, they said we have had zero work from home our entire existence, and we had to suddenly go to 100% work from home. To say it's an adjustment is an understatement. So absolutely exists. So, well, I don't know. We figured out the ethics of it are questionable, but if you're going to do it, don't buy something on Amazon and plug it in. How about that?
Yeah, be wary of what you're plugging into your computer. I think we've been saying that same thing for what, 10, 15, 20 years now?
My entire career.
Right? Yeah. Well, it's all the same, but at the same time, there's a different way. It's so funny because we look at what goes on in security, and it's always just a different delivery method or some new, sort of pretty sparkly overcoat on like a new type of scam, or a new, it's a new scam, but it's really just an old scam just dressed up in a different way. And I think this is sort of the same thing. I think it's the delivery method is definitely different. People are jumping into it. Nobody knows when it's going to stop. And unfortunately, causing a lot of people to put themselves and their computers at risk.
Yes, sir.
Well, thank you. I didn't have to talk too much, but it's still really painful.
Well, thank you for joining us, Erkin. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Hope you had fun. Well, have a good day, everybody. And next week, we're doing InfoSec job interviews part 2, bringing back Dave Menichello. So join us again for another edition next week.
Sweet.
All right,
Take care.